please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
This is the show where our team at CNBC TV18 brings you the top stories of the day. I'm Ritu Singh and you're watching Reporter's Diary. Let's go across now to Shireen Bhan for the top story that we're tracking this Friday, and that is the petrol prices. Well, fuel prices across the country have touched a record high with yet another sharp hike in prices today. A litre of petrol now costs over 87 rupees in Mumbai. And if you are in New Delhi, you will have to shell out over 80 rupees. Across the country, petrol and diesel prices were hiked by 50 paise a litre. This is among the biggest price hikes in a single day ever since the government adopted the daily price revision. The Congress party has called for a Bharat Bandh on Monday. What can the government do? Can it afford to ease excise duty? Can the centre nudge states to cut VAT? Well, we discuss all of that and more in just a bit. But first up, let me go across to my colleague Rituparna Bhuyan, who's joining us now with details on a key development that concern India and its import of crude from Iran, which has been a significant overhang on market sentiment. Ritu, what is India's position now? We've just had the 2+2 dialogue. This continues to be one of those unresolved issues on what position the US will take, whether they will grant us a waiver or not. What is India's stance?
Well, as far as Iran is concerned, this figured out in the agenda of India and US 2+2 talks. Just a day later, India has assured Iran that as far as the economic relationship with Iran is concerned, that will remain strong and Iran should not be worried. This assurance was given by Suresh Prabhu in his bilateral meeting with Iranian Roads and Transport Minister Abbas Ahmed Akoundi, who's in a visit to Delhi. Prabhu actually talked about how India and Iran have had a very good level of bilateral trade in FY18, which was at around $14 billion. And in fact, Mr. Prabhu, according to our sources, proposed that this level of bilateral trade should be increased or doubled in the next 5 years. Prabhu maintained that relationship with Iran is independent of relations with any other country, and he talked about leveraging India-Iran economic opportunities. In fact, this is not the first time that Mr. Prabhu is meeting an Iranian minister. He will soon be visiting Tehran to basically attend the International North-South Transport Corridor Ministerial, and where in Tehran he's also most likely also have a bilateral meeting with his Iranian trade counterpart somewhere later during this year.
All right, Ritu, appreciate you joining us. So Iran has been given an assurance, but we do need to wait to see how the US reacts to all of this. Remember, this comes a day after the 2+2 dialogue concluded between India and the United States. But what about the spiraling fuel prices back home? What are the options before the government? Prashant Nair is here with us. Prashant, first up, let's look at the math. Prices continue to move higher, new records being touched every day, both on petrol as well as diesel. And let's just focus a little bit on what states are doing in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Last time when we've been having continuous coverage on this topic, Shireen, but let's begin with VAT this time. So this is essentially sales tax, which state governments collect on fuel which is sold. And we look focusing just purely on petrol and diesel. The table will come up on your screen, which basically tells you the top 10 states in terms of VAT rates. Now, unlike excise duty, which actually is a fixed number, I mean, it doesn't vary. The VAT rate, the sales tax rate actually varies from state to state. So, I mean, in a state like Delhi, for example, I mean, Delhi actually is one of the states which has affected VAT rate cuts on petrol and diesel, and it is on the lower side. But then you've got big states like Maharashtra, where the VAT rate actually is quite high. So the table will come up on your screen. Maharashtra is the highest, has got the highest rates of VAT on petrol and diesel currently. I mean, the rates vary for Maharashtra. There are two rates in Maharashtra. One is Maharashtra, which includes Mumbai, Thane, Navi Mumbai, and then there is the rest of Maharashtra. But I mean, on both counts, Maharashtra would figure right on the top. Then you've got Madhya Pradesh. It's followed by Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Assam, Rajasthan, Kerala, Karnataka. The interesting point is we've been hearing the central government and officials saying that we will ask states to cut VAT rate. We got 19 odd states in India currently ruled by the BJP or BJP alliances. 4 of these 10 states, which essentially are the highest VAT collecting states in terms of percentage rates, are ruled by BJP or BJP and alliance partners. 4 out of the 10 are BJP and BJP alliance partners. So, I mean, that I thought was something interesting. We've not seen states follow up on the centre saying that we're going to urge states to cut rates. So that's point number 1. The other point is excise rates, and this is, the table again will show you exactly where we stand. As fuel prices fell when this government came to power in 2014, I mean, for 2 years straight, fuel prices came off very, very sharply. The government, in order to sort of, collect the same amount of excise or actually a higher excise, increased sort of excise rates quite a bit. So in FY14, you had 3.5 rupees, which the central government used to collect on diesel, 3.5 rupees a litre. That at the peak went to about 17 rupees and 30 paise. We've only seen a 2 rupee cut on excise rates on both petrol and diesel over the last 4 years. For petrol, that number is about 10 rupees a litre, which the central government used to collect, and that number now stands at almost 20 odd rupees or so, after this 2 rupee cut that I'm talking about. So, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. The total mop-up is on your screen, and look at the increase we've seen. In the case of state VAT, forget the absolute numbers, although the absolute numbers also add up to quite a bit. In FY16 over 15, there was a 4% increase. In FY17, there was a 16% increase. In FY18, there was an 11% increase. This is what VAT is contributing to, all states combined. I've taken these figures from PPAC, which essentially tracks everything related to oil and gas. You look at the centre's excise collections, and also there we've seen a very, very big increase, and that is reflective of the government taking the rate of excise on both diesel and petrol per litre substantially higher, multiple times. So in FY16 over FY15, centre's excise collections jumped 80%. This is the number which critics point out. When fuel prices were falling, you ramped up excise rates. Now when fuel prices are actually going higher, why don't you pass on the benefit of this to the consumers? Back to you, Shireen.
Yeah. Well, those are pertinent questions, and let's take that conversation forward now. We're joined by Narendra Taneja, National Convener of the BJP's Energy Cell, and also with us Sanjay Jha, spokesperson of the Congress Party. Mr. Taneja, you know this sector like the back of your hand, sir. I think the calculations and the numbers that Prashant has just put forward on our screens are numbers that you're fully aware of. What is going on, sir? The government says we must get states to act. 19 of the states are under the BJP. We have seen no reduction in state VAT. We've seen no cut in excise at the central level outside of that 2 rupee cut that was previously announced. Record highs. The consumer is bearing the brunt, Mr. Taneja. What will it take for the government to act? We'll go across to Narendra Taneja in just a bit, but let me go across to Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, the Congress party has announced an all-India Bandh on Monday. But what about what your state governments are doing, Sanjay Jha? If I were to look at the numbers of the states that have the highest rate of VAT, Punjab at 35.12% for petrol and about 16.5% for diesel. Karnataka 30% for petrol, 20% for diesel. Isn't this duplicity on the Congress's part to ask the central government to cut excise while state governments that are Congress-ruled refuse to act on state VAT?
Shireen, I don't think we should miss the woods for the trees. If anybody has been duplicitous, it has been the BJP government under Narendra Modi at the center. And I'll tell you why. Because what is the truth? The truth is that when international oil prices were falling, transparency demanded that the benefit of a falling oil price should have been marked to market and provided to the retail consumer. That was not done. On the contrary, to in fact not pass on the benefit, they increased the taxes on the common man. And that's the way they probably made up the fiscal deficit targets. Now, the situation that you have today is such that when international prices are firmed up, the government seems to be saying, you know what, I have no choice. The markets are, becoming more expensive. The import cost is higher. The rupee is depreciated. Therefore, the common man has to pay more. It's like Narendra Modi telling you and me and the viewers of your channel, heads I win, tails you lose. Basically, all of us are getting a double whammy. And I think that's brazenly unfair. I mean, the reason is that if you made, I mean, we are talking about a number of 11 lakh crores. That's the excise duty collections if you look at it over the last 4.5 years. The question that the people of India will ask, shouldn't you have created some kind of a buffer by which you would have been able to pass on the benefit when the prices pumped up? The government has done nothing. And if you look at the numbers for this year, the numbers are that they have already crossed 86% of the fiscal deficit by August end. So the government today has no elbow room. So today they are telling you that we are helpless. And all this, what I call as cockamamie about, we'll bring it under GST. Trust me, they are lied through the teeth. If they wanted to do it, they could have. If they want to do it today, they can. They have the majority in the GST Council, and they can do it.
Yes. Yeah, let me take all of those questions now to Narendra Taneja. Mr. Taneja, let's be clear. When oil prices had fallen to $40, $45, you hiked excise duty. The consumer bore the burden then because it was acceptable. But at this point, when at least for states like Maharashtra, for cities like Mumbai, where we're now edging closer to 90 rupees a litre on petrol, sir, you've had 4 years of windfall gains on account of central excise that has been collected. States have benefited from hiking state VAT as well. Where does this leave the consumer? Is the government helpless? Is there going to be any action?
No. You see, first of all, the prices are high, Shireen, of petrol and diesel, and a lot of people are facing inconvenience due to that. And we are very, very sensitive to that, and we understand the suffering of the people, especially the lower middle class and the middle class. We understand that, and we are with them on the issue. And government is working on this, believe me, 24/7, looking at the picture, looking at the crude prices, and also looking at what could possibly be done as soon as possible. But according to...
Sir, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you because you just said that the government is sensitive and that the government is looking at this issue 24/7. I take you back only a few months down the line, sir, to May, when we heard from every minister in the government saying that a long-term solution was being put in place. Your party president promised that a long-term solution would be announced shortly, where in September, sir, there has been no clarity on any long-term vision except for the fact that consumers continue to bear higher and higher prices. Prices at the refinery gate are still under 40 rupees. It's the state taxes and the central excise that is hurting the consumer.
You see, Shireen, you are a business channel and you are a very senior reputed business journalist. You know that. Look at the total picture. When it comes to the price of crude, and we depend 85% on imports, it's a given. There's nothing the government can do about it. When it comes to the state governments, the VAT they charge, the sale tax they charge, that's also given. There's nothing much we can do about it. So when it comes to the central government, basically we are referring or we are talking about the excise duty. That's what we are talking about.
Again, I'm interrupting you, sir. Why is it, sir, then that the BJP and your central leadership continues to say that state governments must act, state governments must come on board and state governments must cut VAT? The BJP is present in 19 states, sir. The top 10 states, 4 are BJP-ruled states, with Maharashtra having the highest VAT rate at over 39%. So if you cannot get your own states to act, sir, how can you expect anybody else to play ball with you?
I'm sorry, Shireen. Yeah, you're a friend and you're a very good journalist. But this shows a little ignorance about the fact that how center-state relationship function when it comes to revenue. They may be BJP states, but they come through a different process. They're independent governments. They have come with a mandate from the people. They have their own economics, and they're responsible to the people, with regard to the economics.
But the demand is being made by you, sir, not by me. The demand is being made by the BJP leadership. The demand to cut state VAT has been made by your leadership, not by us, sir.
Absolutely. No, Shireen, you are absolutely right. We keep on raising this issue with different chief ministers. Why don't you bring down your taxes? We keep on doing that. But we can't issue a diktat under the constitution. That would be illegal against the spirit of the constitution and the federal structure of the country. Otherwise, why should there be states? Why should there be election? Why should there be state government? Then still let the center rule everything. You see, we have to respect that this country is Union of India. It's a union of states. They're states, chief minister, and they have their own agenda, own budget and everything. We have to respect that. So we can't issue diktats.
The government
All
at the
that we
center
can do
is helpless.
is have consultations with them.
So you're saying that the government at the center is helpless. So you're saying the government at the centre is helpless? You cannot get states to act. So what about
Absolutely
the centre?
no.
Is
No,
the
these are
centre
your
going to
words.
act on excise?
Shireen, these are... No. Government of India is not helpless. States, government respect the fact that these, we under the constitution, states have their own rights and their own duties. We respect that. That is what it is. We respect the constitution of the country. And you see, what we are basically trying to say is not it's not a question of that. The question is petrol and diesel are decontrolled commodities. Absolutely decontrolled. There was a suggestion made by, I think, the Congress spokesperson that the government should now chip in, suggesting that government should have built some line of stabilization fund. Decontrolled commodities, decontrolled market, when you have handed over petrol, diesel to the market, then how do you make a stabilization fund? Tell me. Get any economist who knows anything about economics.
1 second, sir.
Let him say that we should do that.
Mr. Taneja.
You cannot do that.
Mr. Taneja.
Once it is decontrolled.
Mr. Taneja, let's... 1 second, sir. No. Let's not go into this decontrolled argument, sir, because as I pointed out, a majority of what the consumer is bearing on account of taxes, sir. This is not about deregulated prices, because a majority of what the consumer's burden is on account of central excise and state VAT, which is controlled by the government.
I agree. No, Shireen, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. Who is disagreeing with you? But look at the tax architecture. First of all, the tax architecture, this has been in place for 60 years. We didn't create it. And the question is, when it comes to states, I mean, this is what we want. We are proposing an alternative, that this architecture needs to be reworked. That's only solution, only way forward.
Where are you saying that the architecture needs to be reworked,
sir? This is what we are working on.
How have you
the last sentence.
No,
last
1
sentence,
minute.
Shireen.
1 minute.
Shireen.
How have you reworked the architecture? You've only hiked the excise duty, sir. How have you reworked the architecture? If you're saying that this was a legacy architecture that you inherited, what did you do about correcting it? You only hiked excise further, sir.
No, but when was the last time we increased the excise, Shireen? When was the last time? Please tell me.
Okay.
Are you talking about 2015,
All right.
16?
Sanjay Jha, quick word.
In December, we cut down by 2 rupees. So are you talking about 2 years, 3 years back? The world has changed.
A quick word.
Many things have changed.
Shireen,
Economics is a dynamic
all right,
thing.
quick
Shireen,
word from you, Sanjay Jha.
Economics is not a static.
Yes, please go ahead. Mr. Taneja, let me get Sanjay Jha in before we close. Go ahead.
Shireen,
Sure.
what is the truth? The truth is that the government of Mr. Modi increased excise duties 9 times. 9 times. This is not a small number. Point number 2, you look at the collections on corporate income tax and personal income tax, and you will know that a truly efficient economy, if this government was really efficient, they would have raised more money on direct taxes, and they have completely failed already if I look at the numbers right now. So what are they doing? They're doing what I believe a lazy, incompetent government does. Put a tax on indirect taxes like excise duties and petroleum products, sit back and watch the money flow in. Because the ordinary person, has no choice. You're still going to use your car. You're still going to use public transport. You're going to use a motorcycle and scooter. You're going to need it. You need the LPG for your home for consumption. Now, this is why it's regressive, and I think it's really, anti the common man. It's anti the middle class. This will aggravate inequality. It's reducing disposable income in the hands of the households. And I think the BJP is being very brutally unfair to the common man.
Sanjay Jha, who are the parties who are supporting you for your Bandh call on Monday?
Well, I can tell you at the moment in our conversations with all our, all our partners or our allies, practically everybody. We are also expecting BJP's allies to be on the streets because they recognize that they are going to be at the brunt of the people of India if they are seen to be on the side of a party that has clearly said goodbye to governance and managing a complex economy. They have given it up. And I think they should, had they been alert and not just sat on an oil tailwind or a bonanza, India would have been in a much better state at the moment.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there. It looks like there is no relief in sight for the consumer. We'll have to continue to bear the brunt of higher prices for petrol as well as diesel. The government at this point in time unwilling to move on excise and states unwilling to move on VAT. Narendra Taneja and Sanjay Jha, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18 with one of the big stories that we're tracking here this evening. The other big story is, of course, the Mobility Summit, which is currently underway in in the capital. The Prime Minister speaking at the Mobility Summit. What has perhaps been a cause of disappointment is that the FAME 2 policy has not been unveiled by the government this morning, as was the expectation. But if you've been watching CNBC TV18, we had already told you so, that the FAME 2 policy would not be announced at the Mobility Summit. We'll discuss that and more when we return.